Good. That leafy Lagos enclave where the streets are paved with tranquility until someone in power decides to sell a gorge, nature's very own drainage system, to the highest bidder. Yes, the same gorge that has quietly swallowed stormwater for decades, now under threat from a developer allegedly blessed by government's magical stamp of approval. You know, that's the invisible stamp that turns wetlands into prime real estate overnight. And the Lagos state government, oh, they've got the best seat in the house. Front row, center, hands folded, eyes firmly shut. Now, this wouldn't be so laughable if the Nigerian Meteorological Agency hadn't just waved a big red flag. Torrential rains are coming. They didn't say maybe. They didn't say we will see. They said prepare for the second coming. And what did we do? We took the umbrella of common sense and sold it at a discount, or better yet, gave it as a souvenir at one of the O1 bears every Friday. Earlier this week, parts of Lagos were already swimming. And honestly, the swimming pools of not the Olympic kinds. I'm talking about roads turned to rivers at this point, cars becoming Kanos, homes turned to aquariums. And yet, instead of safeguarding the city's natural flood defenses, we are busy replacing them with duplexes and malls and semi-detached homes, because apparently profit makes a better floodgate than nature ever did. Profit over property and lives. And before anyone in Abuja or Port Harcourt will start smirking and be like, you people and your Lagos, let's remember that this is not just a Lagos problem. Remember Bayelsa in 2022, Lokoja in 2018, Benue in 2017, Niger State earlier this year, whole communities washed away, livelihoods destroyed, schools closed, lives lost. And what was the grand lesson? Oh yes, we will set up a committee. That's always the thing. A committee that meets just long enough to issue a press release. Then, of course, they will collect their usual sitting allowance. Then they will hibernate until the next rainy season again. The truth is this. Our governments, whether state or federal or local governments, treat flood warnings the way some people treat New Year's resolutions. You nod in January and you forget by February. But here's the inconvenient fact. Nature doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care how many ribbon cuttings you have done or how much profit you've made selling what should never have been sold in the first place. When the rains come, and they will come, they will collect their rent in water. They will sweep away homes, roads, and everything we've so carefully stocked in harm's way. So maybe, just maybe, instead of selling wetlands, we could protect them. Instead of ignoring limits, we could plan. I don't know why it's so difficult for our government. Instead of placing profit over property and lives, we could try that ancient radical concept. Do you know what it is? It's common sense. Because the cost of rebuilding after chaos is always higher than the cost of preventing it. We've known this even as childhood. But here we are. And right now, Lagos, like too many Nigerian states, is buying chaos in wholesale. And that's where I'll leave it at. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra for a Sunday. Mizuno Appeal, my co-host and comparable co-host, is right here and he joins me.
Good morning. Didn't know you have joined the real estate markets.
Yes, I have. I have.
Oh, it's all good. Well, come on over. Let's have our conversations.
Of course. Everyone, good morning.
Good morning again and welcome to your Sunday favorite. It's Breakfast Extra. Here's where we bring you the biggest stories, boldest debates, and also brightest conversations to keep your weekend, well, let's say informed and, of course, inspired. After all, it is a Sunday morning. So, today, we've got a packed show coming up for you, and we'll be letting you know the details of what's coming your way in just about a bit. On today's edition, we've got, well, the big story. We're in the heart of Kano politics as the APC throws its weight behind President Tinubu for a second term, while the opposition says, focus on governance, sir. please, first? Well, we're also unpacking the legal showdown, making headlines. Omoyele Sowore's arrest from over the week last week. Allegations of torture, a broken arm, and a police pushback. Now, in the world of finance, we break down the brand new Insurance Reform Act, what it means for investors, consumers, and of course, what it means ultimately for your pocket. And then, of course, we have our extra special. We shine the Nollywood spotlight on a hot debate in social media clout, trumping, or rather is social media clout, trumping raw talent in casting choices. Ima Ogoli says it's time to put craft first. And in another big story, the residents of Magodo, Phase 2, are crying foul over what they call hazardous government-backed construction. And we'll hear from all sides of the dispute. From politics to human rights, money matters, to the movies and community battles, to national policy. It's all here this morning, so grab your cup of coffee, whichever brew you might want, settle in, and let's dive in right away. Judith, you're welcome. Thank you very much for such a stellar... Magodo, why are you so interested in Magodo?
I know. It's in the news now.
Yes,
I'm so interested. I mean, it's in the news. I don't have a choice, do I?
No, the funny
it's in
thing
the news,
about...
and that's my job.
It's very, very true what you say about the fact that these are supposed to be areas that are supposed to contain waters after the rains. It's a natural relief. But unfortunately, it's ridiculous that you actually find that it's aided by the government, or well, they say, and it's sold out to the public. Very sad indeed. But however, tell you what we're going to do now. Let's already get to talking about the dailies, the front pages, what's front and center for you to know today, and what you'd meet. Oh, help me take it over.
Oh, yes, indeed. Let's bring you the dailies, shall we? And you're welcome back. Let's get started with the front pages of the dailies for this morning. We'll start with the major ones, and first on our list is the Punch newspaper for a Sunday. As we pull that up on your screen there you go. Seems like elections are still very much center stage and not stopping anytime soon. The very first one that jumps at you there is 2027. Atiku delays ADC membership card collection amid rumored Jonathan comeback. You can find that story on pages 3 and 4. The subtitle there, ex-VP dismisses threat as ADC chieftain says party courting Jonathan. Aregbesola boast of victory, says God with coalition. Abdullahi knocks critics. All that is on pages 3 and 4 of the Sunday Punch. At the top there, tinted glass permit. Police silence fuel anxiety over August 12th deadline. You can find that story on page 3. Right next to it, Tinubu, Obasanjo, others pay tributes to ex-minister Ogbe. You can find that story on page 10. On the side there, 2027 politics behind Abiodun's move to demolish Daniel's home. That's his house there. You can find the story on that statement is from the PDP. You can find the story on page 10. Suffering and smiling, tales of Nigerian nurses on endless sacrifice with poor pay. That story is on pages 14 and 19. Expel Wike Autumn from PDP. Lamido tells party leadership. You can find that story on page 10. Just by the side there, Stolen Hope orphanages where caregivers divert aid, expose children to hardship. Find that story on pages 8 and 9. And the final one here for the Sunday Punch. Police detention experience pushed me to study law. 71-year-old Babcock graduate. That story is on page 18. Congratulations to him. Yeah, pretty much all of it there for the Sunday Punch.
Now, let's talk about the nation, the Sunday edition. 2027, ADC struggles for presence in Lagos, Kaduna, Enugu, Delta, others. State leaders await directives from Abuja. Get your acts together, ADC. And Obi in dilemma over presidential ticket. Chances dim in ADC LP PDP. And that's the entire opposition, by the way, it would seem. Another headline here, Gbega Daniel Dakwa Abiodun in fresh face-off. Zoom in on the writers there. Ex-governor alleges plan to demolish his house, hotel, and others. Allegation not true, says Ogun government. That's on page 6. Will make for an interesting Sunday read. And Kumi speaks in succession, says, I'll not be blackmailed to quit. To the side of that story there, Tinubu, Akpabio, Akume, others mourn ex-PDP chair Audu Ogbe. And police Sowore not tortured in custody detention lawful on page 7. That's been making rounds. We're actually having that conversation here today inside of Breakfast Extra. Gunmen abduct 9 passengers in Kogi State. That's all for the front page of the Nation newspaper.
That's all we can take for there. But let's move now to the Daily Independence as we pull that up on your screen there for you. Inside the Ojulari NNPC storm, you can find that story as regards the NNPCL and transparency regarding its records and its books. At the top, unemployment, federal government's revised employment policy promising, and that's from experts there, say it will tackle joblessness if well implemented. Want government to be truly committed to forestalling likely revolt. Just right at the bottom there, from bleeding to booming, how Nigeria's blue chip giants staged a stunning turnaround in 2025. That story is on page 5. And in politics, opposition showdown. Who has the upper hand, Atiku or Obi? That'll make a lovely read for a Sunday.
Yes, indeed. Atiku will be always what people want to hear, because it still seems like, we're still very unsure exactly how the ADC wants to play this dice. We wait and see. That's all for the papers this morning. We can't wait to get into conversation, so do join us for our very first big report. Or is it story now?
Hey, welcome back. Let's get started with the big story, our very first big story in the hour, and this time it's on politics. We journey to the political heartbeat of northern Nigeria, where the ruling All Progressives Congress in Kano State has thrown its weight behind President Bola Tinubu for a second term in 2027. The endorsement announced that the residency of former APC National Chairman Abdullahi Ganduje comes with glowing praise for the residents' visible developmental projects in the north, that is, particularly in Kano State. The party also reaffirmed Ganduje's status as the undisputed leader of the APC in the state. But not everyone is applauding this early show of support. Opposition parties, including the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and the African Democratic Congress, ADC, are questioning the timing, calling it a distraction from pressing national challenges. The Independent National Electoral Commission has also reminded political actors that premature campaigning is prohibited under the Electoral Act.
This morning, we unpack what this means for Kano's political landscape, the ruling party's national strategy, and whether early endorsements strengthen or weaken governance. Joining us, Mr. Olaleko Ige, political analyst. He's going to be breaking down the political implications here with us. Mr. Ige, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. And we would like to know what your assessment of this early endorsement for President Tinubu by the North is. Your take, sir. Welcome.
Yeah, good morning, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for
I'm
being
sure
here.
you know it's not happening for the first time in Nigeria's recent political history, where you have political parties coming out to endorse probably the president or the governor or certain individuals within the party. I've heard the, should I say, the reservation from the PDP and from the ADC. Should I say, fortunately or unfortunately, it is the same politicians that are in these political parties. And if they were in the position of the president, I'm sure their parties will be endorsing them by now. So it's nothing new, particularly for party politics in Nigeria. However, INEC has come out to say, look, we still have a long time to go. Usually, INEC announces the next elections 1 year in advance. And I'm sure it's by next year that INEC will have to roll out a timetable for 2027 general elections. But for now, I will agree with INEC that it's too early for parties to begin campaigning for, one candidate or the other. But for me, it's normal party politics, and it's not the first time we're having it in Nigeria's history.
Normal party politics is not the first time we're having it in Nigeria. But let's bring the North into this and the projects that they have claimed that, especially the stalwarts in the APC in Kano, that have said that the president has done that, the projects that they have done and is done so well in the North. When are we ever going to remove this sharing of developments and who should get more development in our governance and our politics?
But It's normal. It's not peculiar to Nigeria. It's all over the world. Naturally, you expect that somebody elected on the platform of a party that becomes the president of Nigeria, in this case, would naturally want to spread the project around Nigeria. And we have a peculiar kind of politics here where we have a north-south dichotomy in Nigeria's politics. So wherever you are, you want to attract as much project as you can, to your region. And particularly, in this case, Kano is in the northwestern part of Nigeria, and that is the region that has the highest number of registered voters in Nigeria, followed by the southwest. So you understand why the politics that is being played, and particularly for Kano, where the candidate of the NNP did better than APC in the last general election. So you understand why all of this is coming up and why they think that the president should get a larger chunk of the vote from Kano this time around. So you expect that the APC in Kano want to tell Kano people what they've been able to attract in terms of federal projects to their zone. So this is normal politics when you begin to bargain, for what you can get. And one of the best ways to bargain for what you can get is to bring the number of people who can vote in your state, especially in Kano. And that's why you are saying that Kano is saying, look, we've been able to attract many projects to Kano, and this is why Kano people should support Tinubu during the next general elections.
Mr. Ege, so we get that, but let's bring in responsibility here for INEC. INEC has won that early campaign is wrong, but we want to know how much of an infringement this is on the laws or the regulation that INEC has put on ground for elections. How much of an infringement is it?
Well, I think INEC is the statutory body recognized to control anything about elections in Nigeria. INEC will have to come up if we've had any infractions or whatsoever. And that's why we've always argued that INEC needs to be strengthened. You need to find the political party. You need to place a fine on that particular individual. These are all of issues, that have gone on for a long time. At what point can INEC say, no, you cannot begin to campaign, or we think that you've started campaigning, this is the amount of fine you are meant to pay, or this is the kind of sanction, you are meant to face. Only INEC can, at this point, come out if infractions, have been committed, and if there are appropriate fines or sanctions to be meted out to such political party.
So, Mr. Ige, can we now define what campaigning actually is? Is it until we find posters all over the place in radio ads or television ads and jingles? Is that what INEC is absolutely regarding as campaigning? Or are these rounds that we see in the north especially, are they campaigning? So if you can help us define what campaigning means, maybe in the eye of INEC, that would help us, zero in on what they might be thinking.
I think the fact that you already have political parties endorsing candidates, across the length and breadth of Nigeria, that's already a subtle campaign. You're already stating that, look, we want you, that's the electorate, to vote for this particular candidate. That's already a subtle campaign. But then it's INEC that is, saddled with that responsibility to find out whether infractions have been committed already, whether political parties are already campaigning. INEC needs to be able to come up with a statutory position. INEC needs to issue a statement. INEC needs to say, look, okay, we've been able to sanction a certain political party or certain political parties. We've been able to find, certain people who have started campaigning for some candidates ahead of 2027, general election. There has to be a roadmap. There has to be a parameter. There has to be a kind of foundation upon which INEC cannot begin to sanction politicians and political parties. And until INEC is able to clearly, define that, it becomes difficult to know whether infractions have been committed or not.
You said that INEC needs to be strengthened, right, earlier on when you were talking about the sanctions. But when we look at the Electoral Act of 2022, just before the 2023 elections, there was a lot of, regulations and, rejigging of the act and what the electoral umpire can and cannot do. And so should we say that they are also lazy as well? When we look at the mass defections that have happened, the open endorsements we've seen on inside the green and the red chamber as well, and just the mass decamping. Should we go back to the Electoral Act? Is that to tweak more things? Does INEC not have power already?
doesn't have any power whatsoever over the defection of any elected member, either of the state assembly, national assembly, or even those who are in executive positions. INEC does not have any power over that. It is only the political party on whose platform a candidate won election and that candidate now defects to another party. It is the responsibility of that political party on constituent members of that elected official to go to court and say, look, we voted for this man on this platform and he has decided to abandon us and go to another political party. That is clearly the function of the political party. INEC has absolutely no correlation here. INEC only waits for what the court has stated and INEC would act. As regards campaigns, yes, I did say earlier that, look, INEC needs to be strengthened. Maybe we need to amend some parts of the Electoral Act to ensure that, look, INEC is able to keep its lead on those who start early campaigns by endorsements and all of that. But those are normal party politics. If we strengthen INEC, can they be able to put a lead on this so that those who are elected can focus on governance and can only start campaign probably when INEC unfolds the calendar for an election, to take place. But as far as defections are concerned, it has nothing to do with INEC.
So, Mr. Sorry, Judy, go ahead, please.
Go ahead.
May I? Thank you very much. So, Mr. Ige, it's very interesting, the situation that the presidency finds itself. Currently, it seems that the presidency has its finger on the pulse of everything that's happening throughout the entire sectors, whether it's agriculture, education, infrastructure. There's so much going on when it comes to development. There's also healing of the economy. The inflation rate is kind of like reducing. So one has to wonder whether this claim of electioneering is actually valid. How much of a shift from governance has the presidency gone?
I think, like I said earlier, we have a special kind of politics in Nigeria where once politicians are elected, immediately they start thinking of the next election. It's something that's been with us, for a long time. It's not the first time. And we'll probably have to be able to find a way to ensure that people don't start campaigning for the next election on the very first day they are elected. But the truth of the matter is, for every action taken by those in executive or in a legislative position, every action taken by them is a political capital. It's meant to achieve a gain. It's meant to achieve an end. It's a means to an end, so to say, because it's on those premises, on those predicates, they can campaign for the next election. But how do we ensure that elected officials stay focused on their responsibilities and ensure that they can only campaign when the time is right? I do not know what kind of mechanism that we can put in place to ensure that, look, people don't begin to talk. But then some too will also argue that, look, we have our guaranteed rights, to endorse anybody who wants, our guaranteed rights, to speak politically on any issue we want or to support any candidate we want. There have to be bounds upon which these things can happen. Is there a way we can ensure that we put all of this within bounds so that politicians don't go overboard? But it's the way and manner we've played politics since 1999, since the return of this democracy. It's the way we have played the politics, and it's difficult, to control at this point in time. But can we find certain bounds upon which we can guide people and ensure they stay within the framework of what they are meant to do?
You keep saying that it's our politics, it has been since 1999. But maybe jog my memory, or maybe I'm just too young. What administration or whose administration have we ever seen this type of campaigning or early campaigning or endorsements just barely 2 years into their administration? Who have we seen? Who has ever done this? Just to jog my memory, because I don't know. And it just giving what we have, even though the inflation and the inflation numbers and what the government is saying regarding the renewed hope agenda and what they're trying to do with the economy, it's black and white compared to what Nigerians are facing on the streets and what we pay when we go into the stores, right? And so when the opposition is calling for more focus on governance as opposed to politics, are their cause displaced? Are Nigerians' cause displaced? Is this not a distraction from what it should be at the core of this administration? Those
that are in opposition today were members of major political parties some 20 years ago or since 1999. It's the same thing. It's the same set of politicians. Those who are in opposition today, who are talking about early campaigns for elected office holders, were in the same positions. Some of them were former governors, former senators, former vice president. They were in this same position. And check, from 1999, the moment we started democracy in 1999, return of democracy in 1999, barely 2 years into that administration, I'm talking of the administration of President Olusegun Obasanjo, we started the idea of a second-term campaign. Remember, too, during the second-term campaign of second tenure of President Obasanjo, we started nursing the idea of amending the constitution to allow the president to run for a third term. It's not the first time. In 2007, when we had another set of elected officials, it was the same thing. It's been part of Nigeria's politics since 1999. This is nothing new. I'm sure Nigerians know this is nothing new from those politicians or those who are in opposition. They were in this same position so many years ago, some years ago, and they were part of this agenda to begin to campaign for a second tenure while still in office.
So, as we're saying that they're all part of this agenda for this politics, and this is just politicking as every day, as time immemorial, then what's the way forward in terms of the opposition? If that means that an incumbent cannot be taken over, do you think that ADC, PDP, or the ACC, or AAC, or SDP, any of these parties have a chance?
It's left for Nigerians. It's not about political parties. It's about the electorate. It's left for Nigerians to be able to decide and say, look, we sent you to do something and you didn't do it well. And rather than do already campaigning, for a second term in office, the power lies with the electorate. We need free, fair, and credible elections. If we have free, fair, and credible elections, I'm sure politicians will know that they can be sacked at any point in time. And that's what we need. If we can just achieve free, fair, and credible elections, where our votes count, politicians will sit up because they know that the electorate can sack them at any point in time. That's what democracy is all about. The ability to change your elected official when you think the person has not performed. And the moment we're able to achieve, politicians will sit up.
Mr. Ige, the term free fair elections, it has now been overflogged to this point that I do not know what it means anymore, given what has happened with our elections in the past and what happened during the elections in 2023. But most importantly, the translation of the 27 states and the FCT, or plus the FCT, or including the FCT, it has been left to translation at this point. And so, as we're calling for free and fair elections, whose job is it to ensure that there's going to be free and fair elections? Is it on the incumbent that is already campaigning 2 years into the administration? Is it on the opposition parties who are doing their best to be a bold voice of opposition and dissent for Nigeria? Or is it the INEC who is just 2 years in, already too late at this point, is now saying that every party is early campaigning? Whose job is it?
Personally, it is the responsibility of INEC and we, the electorate. It's not the responsibility of those that have been elected. No. It's the responsibility of INEC and we, the electorate. INEC needs to get it right in terms of how votes are counted, in terms of how votes are transmitted, to their recognized security zone where elections can be announced. It's also the responsibility of us as electorate to come out on election days. I'm sure a lot of people want to make reference to 2023, that look, we all came out and were disappointed with the way and manner INEC handled the issue of IREF. This is the best time for us to start demanding improvements from INEC. It's the responsibility of us as electorate. And INEC, despite the reservations of 2023 general election, is the first time in Nigeria's recent history that multiple political parties won election. There were a lot of people who won election on the first ballot in 2023 who never believed they could have won election in Nigeria. It meant that at least we have shifted from one position. We are taking a step forward. Can we now take further steps forward in 2027 by ensuring that INEC gets it right in terms of transmission of election results? We need to be able to get it right. Once we get that right, once Nigerians who are also members of INEC resist the temptations on being influenced by those who give them money to change or to abandon their positions, then we can get it right. INEC won't operate in isolation. INEC works with Nigerians. What is the credibility of those Nigerians? How do we ensure that, look, these are people that you cannot easily influence? Look at the case of what happened in Abia. Let's take Abia State as an example. Remember the pressure that was on the returning officer in Abia State. The woman stood her ground. That's the proud Nigerian. She stood her ground and said, look, I will announce the original election result. And see what we have in Abia today. See the turnaround of what the governor is trying to do. That's what I'm saying. INEC will need to shoulder a lot more responsibilities. Nigerians who work with INEC or who are contracted by INEC, especially returning officers for elections, what is the credibility, of these people? Only then can we get it right.
Well, Mr. Olalika Ige,
right.
Okay. Mr. Olalika Ige, I want to say thank you very much for joining us. Very interesting take you had there on the variety of winners from the past 2023 elections. Never saw it that way. Well, let's hope that we can make good on that one for the next elections. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. And of course, hey, we enjoyed that conversation. We're going to be taking a break now and moving on to our next big story. Do stay tuned and we'll be on with it soon.
You're welcome back. Welcome to our second big story for this hour. Now, there's a growing political chatter in Kogi State over what some critics describe as lopsided appointments by Governor Usman Ododo. The concern? Many key positions appear to be going to individuals from Okene local government area, raising questions about inclusion and representation in the state's leadership. To keep us abreast on this conversation, we're joined by Isaiah Davis Ijele. He's the Press Secretary, SDP, Kogi State, Nigeria. Well, Mr. Isaiah, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'd like to start with, the core of the matter. What exactly are the concerns that the SDP has regarding Governor Ododo's recent appointments?
Thank you very much for having me again this morning. It is disheartening, and I don't think we are practicing what we call democracy in Nigeria, especially Kogi State. My dear, it's as if we are being governed by people who don't understand the rule of law, who don't understand the dividend of democracy and the reason they are elected into office. Now, let me tell you something. Kogi State is now as if though we are in Okene local government. I guess they have to change that name to Okene local government. And I have my reason for it. Very simple. Governor, Okene. Chief of Staff, Okene. Accountant General, Okene. Chairman Internal Revenue, Okene. Superb Chairman, Okene. Commissioner for Justice, Okene. Commissioner for Rural and Power, Okene. Commissioner of Health, Okene. Head of Service, Okene. Pension Board, Okene. DG Government House, Okene. DG Land Commission, Okene. And 3 commissioners from Okene local government alone. Kogi East, which is 9 local government, the biggest and the majority, about 60% of the population of Kogi State, are only be given a portfolio, a commissioner portfolio that I don't know what they are doing with those offices, just 3. Meanwhile, 1 local government have produced almost every, the best position and best decision makers in the government. So what are we talking about? Is that democracy?
Right.
Are we now ruled by 1 local government?
Mr. Isaiah, what you are accusing the governor of is favoritism, and at this point, nepotism, but most importantly, favoritism, saying that he favors individuals from Okene local government. And one has to ask about whether or not you have the evidence and data to support this claim. But more importantly, what this allegation points to is alleged imbalance, and it might affect the unity and governance of Kogi State. Are you saying that the state governor doesn't prefer attention to all 3 senatorial districts?
Not at all. I'm not alleging. Allegation is an imagination of things that are not real. I am giving you name figures. I'm giving you data. You can verify it yourself as a journalist. Put the Commissioner of Information online if you can deny this. I'm telling you, mentioning the name categorically, that all these commissioners and all these positions are given to the people from Okene local government. This is not an allegation. That is fact. Fact. Now, just 3 days ago, about 9 or 10 projects were approved by the governor. Guess what? All in Okene, few in other local government in the central. No single project was approved for Kogi East. What are we talking about? What are we? What is that? That is not an allegation. And let me shock you with something again. Now, some chief, the governor has approved the enthronement of some chiefs in Ajokuta who are previously called Olu Ajokuta, now his of Ajokuta. You see, these are ethnic bigotry. These are ethnic mission. Now, when we are talking about agenda, what we call a personal agenda, he will give it to Ododo. Ododo is playing the script of Governor Yabelo as the former governor of Kogi State. Otherwise, I don't see any reason why you are governing the state called Kogi State with 3 senatorial districts and only central, not just the central. Okene are all where your appointment, the juicy position are coming from. In other words, in the caucus of the decision makers of Kogi State, you will not see any other region from in that meeting. When we are talking about security meetings in Kogi State, how many people are from other local government? How many people are from my own districts? And look at this again. Look at one of the biggest mistakes of this government in Kogi State.
Mr. Davis. Mr. Davis Ejele, you are the press secretary for the SDP. So I have to ask you, as a press secretary, have you reached out to the governor on behalf of your team, or have you reached out to any member of his administration to raise his concerns directly? And what has been their response, if you have?
I have been raising this all the time. I have been raising this. We have been saying it. We'll be shouting, protesting it. They don't care. You don't understand? They don't care. We are being governed by autocracy. We are being governed by kakistocracy in autocracy. So if absolutely there is nothing you can do, is absolutely power corrupt, absolutely. That is what they are practicing. Now, imagine a state that you were involved in a case in Bagana, and you were sued alongside with a party, Otutubatu, and you won the case. Now you are going behind to allocate the same land to another person in the name of peace. Peace and justice are intertwined. So you cannot choose the line of peace and marginalize another people in the guise of peace. There will never be peace, and there can never be, because there was no justice to the owners of the land. You are deviating from the traditions of we, the Igala, to satisfy your stooges, which is unacceptable. I think some of our representatives from Kogi should speak up. Somebody like Chocho, I don't know what you are doing, because I can't even talk about that as my representative. But I think we have people of integrity, people like Halims and Honorable David Zechariah in the House of Reps to stand up and speak up. I was so shocked to see some of the good work that Honorable David have been doing in either constituency. Some of the empowerment, the foundation, and so many and so on that this young man have been doing. These are the people that should start speaking up for us, because these are the leaders we have that are representing us very well. But look, let me put this to you. Ododo is playing the script of Governor Yabelo. As simple as everything. Kept saying it. Listen to this. Let me tell you this. Before the election, I said it, that if Ododo is allowed, that is another third term of Governor Yabelo by proxy. It is crystal clear, and that is what is playing now. You don't even know who is in charge of the state. Ododo that I spoke to me, that said, look, man, I'm going to govern the state, and by the time I am...
Mr. Davis, now we're going to put a pin on this discussion, because we quickly have to go for a short break. If you're just watching, you're watching our big story, our second big story for the hour here inside of Breakfast Extra. Our guest today is the press secretary of the SDP in Kogi State, and he's alleging that Governor Usman Ododo of Kogi State is playing favoritism in the favor of indigents of Okene local government area, just disregarding integration as regards the 3 senatorial districts of the state. Let's go on that break. When we return, we're going to ask whether this could be a political misstep or maybe a deliberate strategy of the administration. After the break, stay with us. And welcome back. You're watching Breakfast Extra here on News Central Television. Our focus is on Kogi State, and this time is allegations of favoritism on the governor of the state, Governor Usman Ododo, as the press secretary and members of the SDP have said that the governor placed favoritism to individuals of Okene local government area, giving all recent appointments to that state and major appointments as well to that local government area of the state, ignoring other areas and senatorial districts. Now, joining us is Mr. Isaiah Davis Ijele. He's a press secretary of the SDP Kogi State. Now, you were saying that earlier before the break, you called, the positions that he has given to Okene, and saying that he seems to be, a puppet. I hate to use that term, but he seems to be in alliance to the former governor of the state. And so I have to ask you, these are all very heavy allegations. Do you not see that this could be a political misstep, or an oversight on his part, or it could just be a deliberate strategy of the administration? To be fair to the administration, he could see these individuals as persons who might align with the agenda of the administration. Do you not think?
That is not the case. Listen to this. There are what we call premeditation event, and there are what we call an emergency event. We are talking about issues that I have raised even on this your channel prior to election in 2023 and after the election. And one by one, we see them coming to pass. That is the projection. It's like a prophecy that I have given before time. That look, this and this are what is going to happen if this guy is allowed. Looking at the trajectory of the event in the state, and each of these predictions are coming to pass. Meaning, it is not a miscalculation. Listen to this. On the day of the swearing-in of Ododo, the Atai Gala, the first-class chief of Kogi State, that is the chairman of traditional rulers in Kogi State, was on the seat, was bypassed to call the man from Okene without recognizing the chairman and the president sitting down. It was later, after the whole event, that he realized, according to him, that he forgot and he apologized, forgot the Atai Igala sitting on the seat, the chairman, calling the deputy chairman. That is an insult. We predicted this and it came to pass. You can call it a miscalculation or a misstep. It's a deliberate attempt to subjugate, conquer, and marginalize us from Kogi East. Simple as ABCD. It's an attempt to conquer, marginalize, and subjugate the Igalas and other regions, the Okuns. Some of the Okuns are aware, and some are not aware of what is going on. Because you cannot, all these positions I've called are from Okene. Tell me which other position that are decision maker in the government. No single one. You can call it a miscalculation and a misstep. That is a deliberate attempt to subjugate other regions, subjugate other ethnicity, subjugate other people in the state. And let me shock you this. Prior to the election, when we are campaigning, how many places, what is the Ododo manifesto? No single manifesto. The only person you see campaigning before the election is Governor Yabelo. Then, former Governor Yabelo was the one campaigning. And we said that, look here, from what is going on, if you don't have a vision and a mission to govern the state, you will be working for the man that is leaving you behind. You see, is...
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Yes, I have to just butt in here for a second, because you said that you talked about campaigning and, the opposition parties, but also you did mention the other tribes and the other ethnicities in the state and how they have been marginalized. According to your word there, just to paraphrase you, they have been marginalized and excluded from governance, And so what about the other opposition parties? Do they feel the same as well? Because they are the voice of dissent or the embodiment of dissent of the people of Kogi State. Have they also come together with you or form a coalition that can present these concerns to the governor?
No opposition in Kogi State other than the SDP. The leaders of the opposition in Kogi State is the person of Alhaji Murtala Yakubu Ajaka, the authentic man who the people gave them their vote, if not for technicalities of the INEC and the judiciary. This is a crystal clear event that you and I know what transpired in Kogi State. Now, where is the opposition? Are you talking about PDP in the state? Who is the leader of the PDP in Kogi State? Are you talking about the new formation of the ADC who have not gotten their grant? We are the one who should pilot that plane in the state. But today the formation is ongoing. We have not ruled it out. Like I said on this channel before, the opposition are coming together to form a coalition, and that has not been done. Those are individual movements. There is yet to be a full alignment of the parties, which is either APC, PDP. In fact, in this coalition of the ADC, there are some notable APC that are also involved in that coalition. So we are yet to have the formation of the party. But as it is right now, the only party leading in the front of the opposition in Kogi State is SDP, and that is it. Who is talking? Have you seen any opposition in Kogi State other than we, the SDP? There is no one, and that is the fact. So we are saying it is this is. You see, I don't subscribe to a practical event to be called an allegation. When I come to speak on air, I have my fact and figure, and I call it as it is, and I mention name, I have mentioned position, mention the local government. Go and do your verification. This is not an issue of alleging the governor is doing the allegation. No, we are telling you what the man is doing, and he's doing every day. You will be shocked this week, even after this interview. And you'll be shocked that tomorrow again they are giving another appointment. All you see given to other people from other regions, SSA on nothing. SSA that does not have office. So a portfolio without employment without title without entitlement. So a portfolio with that is what is given to other regions, and it's evident in his appointment.
Let me ask you, besides appointments, very quickly, just let me ask you, besides appointments, right? Let's look at the elections and the elected offices, right? So besides the governor, there is the local government chairmen and the local councilorships as well. Are there any positions that the SDP hold in to balance the equation in terms of power, checks and balances in the state?
Get it. On the day of the election of the local government and council election, where is the big ballot paper? You don't see ballot, you only hear result. One of the leader of the SDP from Olamabro, Barrister Malik Babanawa, is the chairman for SDP in Olamabro local government. He didn't even see a ballot paper in his own polling unit. There was no ballot paper. He went to the as a candidate, as a chairman of to be according to the wave that was moving there. There was no ballot. Are you talking about my local government? My own local government? Are you talking so? It's all parade. I said it immediately, even of that very day. I granted an interview right on this space, and I told you that look, we said it, we predicted it, we prophesied it. That look, there will be election in Kogi State. That no local government election will take place. All you see is announcement of the result, and that was what took place. That only the chairman, the councillors, everything was announced at all. Even at the national level, it is not possible. But you see, some of these things that some of these governors are doing in Nigeria are the reason that there is poverty, abject poverty on the street, because they want to take control of the central and also at the local level without dividend of the democracy, getting to the grassroots. The bridge between the central and the state and the local government are the councillors. Trust me, councillors in Kogi State, allegedly, that even some of the chairmen signed their resignation list later before they were given the position. You know why? If you want to deviate, they will just present your resignation.
Mr. Davis, you are making very heavy allegations, and I must say it here. Now, just bear with me for a second, please. We cannot confirm these allegations, right? I have to put this out here, that these are, statements made by yourself and your party, and we cannot confirm them at this time. News Central cannot. Let's just leave this here. But before we go, at the very core of this issue is favoritism and the matter of inclusion when it comes to governance and, shared dividends of democracy. And so I have to ask you, what's your party doing and what can be done in the way forward? Do you see the body language of the governor and his administration sort of, lean towards your plight and your call to open the doors for more inclusion in his panel or in his cabinet?
It's to you. The reason they are doing all they are doing without even considering, without even they don't even put in context or in consideration of our noise and our, let's call it noise, whatever I call it, our cry or whatever you call it, is very simple. They are very sure that they can manipulate the system, just as they did in 2023. See, if we don't correct, if we don't put INEC in the right path in this country, trust me, the governors will do and get away with it. If Odo don't know or is aware consciously and subconsciously that, look here, if I don't do this, I can't win my position back. And I can't win this election, they will be compelled to do the right thing. But because our elected officials know that there is no consequence for their saying, there's no consequence for their do and undo, they continue to rule us with autocracy. They continue to rule us with iron hand. They continue to rule us with a personal vendetta without considering the consequence of their sin, the consequences of their action. If Odo don't know that in 2027 he cannot get back even his ticket, let alone winning election, because of his action, now I tell you, tomorrow there will be a change. But there can never be a change because they don't care. Because they think they have the INEC in their pocket. They have the judiciary in their arms. They have everything. They have all the government apparatus to do and undo. Otherwise, how will somebody give such an appointment without considering other districts? Tell me. This is not an allegation. You see, there's a difference. When I say allegedly, I don't have the facts. But I am saying it with facts of what is it's confirmable, that these are the people occupying this position, and you cannot change it. And they are doing it last week alone. I told you about 9 or 10 construction of this on that central aspect. And you look at allegation. That is a statement of fact.
So we're pretty much out of time. I want to say thank you for taking out the time to join us this Sunday morning. This is Mr. Isaiah Davis Ijele. He's the press secretary of the SDP in Kogi State, as the party has now levied allegations against the governor of the state, Governor Usman Ododo, of favoritism, saying that the recent appointments have now all tilted to Okene local government, which is where the governor hails from, as well as the former governor of the state. Mr. Davis Ijele, once again, thank you so much for joining us. That's pretty much all we can take for this first hour. As we head into the second hour, we kick-start it with the news. Stay with us.
Good morning and welcome. Let's bring you the headlines. My name is Mazino Appeal. Now we begin with politics. A former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, has thrown his weight behind former President Goodluck Jonathan as the People's Democratic Party's strongest option for the 2027 presidential election. Lamido's endorsement comes amid persistent speculation over Jonathan's possible return to the PDP to contest the 2027 presidential race. He describes Jonathan as an experienced leader who understands governance and works well with others. Meanwhile, Jonathan, who has largely maintained a low political profile since losing the 2015 election, has not publicly declared his intentions. And in the meantime, reactions have trailed the call by the 2023 presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, for a single term of 5 years for the office of the President of Nigeria. Obi had said this would make the occupier know that they have a job to do within the limited time available. He said this was the practice in South Korea, where the president cannot seek re-election after a single term of 5 years in office. However, first national chairman of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, Chekwa Sowore, said Obi's proposal is a sign of desperation. Away from political matters now, President Bola Tinubu has condoled with the people of Benue State over the death of Audu Ogbe, former chairman of the People's Democratic Party. In a statement, presidential spokesman Bayo Nanuga said Tinubu recognized Ogbe's intellectual contributions to policy-making and his ability to craft practical solutions to complex national challenges. Also mourning the former minister, ex-president Olusegun Obasanjo, speaking through his aide Kehinde Akinyemi from Uganda, described Ogbe as peace-loving, unassuming, and committed to democracy. And the Academic Staff Union of Universities has warned the federal and state governments to address long-standing issues in public universities or risk another industrial crisis. Now, ASU President Christopher Piwuna cited poor welfare, inadequate funding, and the government's failure to honor agreements, including the renegotiation of the 2009 FGN ASU deal. He said lecturers work on empty stomachs and conduct research without essential resources while struggling with unpaid bills and other financial burdens. The union also criticized political interference in university leadership and condemned programs that treat academics as volunteers. In Lagos, a dispute over land levies has escalated into the demolition of several homes in Ajegunle, while landlords accuse their traditional rulers of acting illegally. The royal families insist it is enforcing long-standing leasehold rules. News Central's Omoyele Sowore here reports.
The scene in Ajegunle is one of anguish. Residents picking through debris after roofs and walls were turned down without warning. Some house owners blame the Ojora of Ijora land for ordering what they call an illegal destruction of property.
Ní àná mo lọ sọ́jà bí mo ṣe dé ni mo bá gbogbo àwọn tó ń já páànù ṣẹ̀kẹ̀ kí ló dé wọ́n ní baálé Ọmọjọra ló rán wọn ṣe mo ní lẹ́yìn ìgbà tó gbowó lọ́wọ́ mi tó gba 2 million tó jẹ́ pé receipt ni mò ń wá ó dẹ̀ sọ fún mi pé kò tí sí receipt ńlẹ̀.
Surprisingly, yesterday towards around 12 o'clock a call put to me that they are pulling the roof of this. I doubt it because we have the document of this house. The last receipt, the annually receipt, this is the annually receipt that we have paid for last year, 2024. So I feel reluctant that we have paid, we are not owing.
Neighbor mi kan tó wà ńbẹ̀ yẹn lọ síbi iṣẹ́ ìgbà tí yẹn máa dé lálẹ́ àná gbogbo ẹrù ẹ̀ wà ń tà ìyẹn lówó tóun gbé sínú ilé òun ò rí mọ́ so látàná yẹn ń sìn àti ìrí kókó mọ́ ṣe dalé gbogbo mọ́ wa lórí rẹ̀ níbì kan tá a fẹ́ lọ.
While landlords scramble to protect what remained, tenants say they've been displaced and left counting their losses.
Before we will know, more than 100 bricklayers just climbed up and carpenters started spoiling this thing. Before you know how the area is. Hoodlums just use that opportunity to vandalize our properties and other things.
Before other set of police came and the caretaker said they should stop. And boys have already entered with houses because immediately they start removing the roof. Boys, hoodlums, they pack in, start silly things.
When News Central visited Ijora for the other side, the royal family denied wrongdoing, saying the demolitions targeted landlords who failed to pay their yearly levy. They argue that all lands in Ijora, including Ajegunle, are leasehold property.
Ijora land is a leased land, not freehold, which you have to be paying your annual rent yearly. And if you default for the past, let's say 1 year, 2 years, we have appealed to them through public notice, serve in each houses. But they didn't do anything. They just sit down there doing nothing. And we can't just fold our hands.
There's a Supreme Court judgment on the first land of our family. Then we serve them paper, they will refuse to pay. Some say it is their father that their father that owned the place. I say no, it's a misconception. Your father did not buy the land from us. They only lease it. If you have any document contrary to our demand, let's see it, which is not true.
Residents now hope both sides can reach a compromise to end the tension and restore peace in the community. In Lagos for News Central, Omolola Ololade.
Thousands of opposition supporters have marched through Abidjan, Ivory Coast, demanding inclusive election ahead of the October 25 polls. The protests follow the exclusion of key opposition figures, including former President Laurent Gbagbo and ex-Credit Suisse CEO Tidjane Thiam, from the race. Demonstrators waved banners calling for justice, a fair electoral roll, and rejecting President Alassane Ouattara's bid for a controversial fourth term after scraping term limits in 2016. Opposition groups insist on peaceful elections with all candidates allowed to run, while fears mount over rising political tensions and potential violence in the West African nation's largest city.
Mon papa Alassane là, il n'a qu'à laisser 4 mandats. Faut pas il va écouter bouche de ses partisans qui le suivent là. Il est fatigué. De toute façon, il me plaît comme ça là. Il n'a qu'à quitter au pouvoir. Parce qu'on lutte pour nos enfants pour demain. Pour les vieux là, on ne lutte pas pour eux. On lutte pour nos enfants demain.
Je suis venu pour soutenir le président Tidjane Thiam. Je souhaite sa réinscription sur la liste électorale. Voilà, c'est pourquoi je suis là.
Il n'y a pas de distinction des partis politiques. Nous sommes un peuple et nous sommes venus dire oui à la réinscription du président Laurent Gbagbo et du président Tidjane Thiam et non à une forfaiture, non à un 4e mandat.
And you're welcome back. Welcome to our second big story, or our first big story for this hour. Today we take a look at something that's happening on the national stage. A long-standing battle for justice that's now taking center stage. Human rights activist and AAC leader Omoyele Sowore has been arrested by the Nigerian Police Force, reportedly on allegations including forgery, cyber-stalking and criminal defamation. And while the police insist the arrest was lawful, executed within the 48-hour bail window and accompanied by offers twice declined for independent medical examinations, Sowore has fiercely rejected the detention, describing it as illegal and claiming he endured assault and mistreatment, his arm allegedly broken in custody.
Civil society groups, including the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center, have raised alarm over due process violations and called for independent scrutiny, highlighting serious constitutional and human rights concerns. So joining us to untangle this story are Precious Oruche, human rights activist, and also Ashok Philip, National Organizing Secretary of the African Action Congress. You're welcome, gentlemen and lady. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.
Before we go into conversation with you, let's take a look at this News Central package from over the week.
The protesters continued their demonstration in the usual fashion. This time, they received an audience from a senior police official who made clarifications on why the leader of the Revolution Now movement is still in police custody.
The 2 petitions, as I've stated, were shown to Omoyele Sowore, but he refused to make statements in the presence of his lawyers. It's on record.
He has been in detention for more than 72 hours. As I speak to you, the Constitution requires that anybody that is arrested should be brought before a competent court within 24 hours of his arrest. So, what we are saying now is the police, the IGP, has violated the fundamental right of Sowore without reasonable cause. He has no reason. You heard the police commissioner address the press. Did he give any cogent reason for his continued detention? No.
After some back and forth, a few of the demonstrators agreed to visit the office of the IGP Intelligence Response Team, where Sowore was relocated. Yele Sowore was then brought in with a bandaged right arm and allowed a few words.
Since I came here yesterday, they brought my hand. They have not been able to bring a doctor. They brought a nurse. Instead of them bringing a doctor, they want to brought the media now. This is all part of the nonsense of IG and
just based on
and all these foolish
request,
people agreeing with Nigeria.
Following confirmation of his whereabouts, the demonstrators say his condition confirms their concerns.
Anybody can put bandage on their hand and does it look like somebody brutalized?
A bandage in the custody.
He came with a bag that contains different things.
Your interview was obstructed and abruptly brought to an end in there. Was because
he came with
drama
a bag.
The police wanted to play.
The bag
wasn't
contains
well according to the
toothpaste,
script.
soap,
And when
and
they got
different
uncomfortable
things.
with the drama in there, they asked you guys to go out and you all went out.
Since Sowore in detention, it's just more of giving us a confirmation for us.
Well, apologies there for the kind of like the syncing of the video there with the audio. We apologize. However, I think the information is well past. And back to our guests here who we have with us, Precious Aruche, and of course also Mr. Oshoks Phillips. You're welcome once again, gentlemen and lady. Now let's get to this conversation. Now, Ms. Aruche, I want to start with you. Based on these developments, do you view Sowore's arrest and detention as rooted in legitimate criminal procedure, or is it politically motivated?
I think, thank you so much for having me. I think it's not just politically motivated. I think it's personally motivated. I think this is the personal vendetta of the Inspector General of Police, IGP Kayode Ekpetokun. So whatever he's doing is illegal and it has to be called out. Rule of law simply means the law supersedes personal, private, public considerations. You know, the law is supreme. The president is not above the law. No political office, private office, appointed office is above the law. What the law requires there is for you to charge Omoyele Sowore to court, right? So while detaining him, while brutalizing in your facility, I think everything that pertains to this arrest is illegal, and that is what, there's no other word for it.
No other word for it. We have Phillips. Mr. Phillips, if you're joining us, we'll try to see if we can bring his visuals on there. Oshoks Phillips is the National Organizing Secretary of the African Action Congress. But in the meantime, oh, there you are. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, as a leading voice in Sowore's party, how do you characterize these charges and the circumstances of his detention? Mr. Phillips, can you hear me? We will try.
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Yes, I was asking, you know, given being a representative of Mr. Sowore's party, how does the party view his arrest and, you know, the circumstances of the allegations and detention?
Omoyele Sowore was adopted because the day we walked into the FID, on the instruction of the IG of police, we went as citizens of the country who are law-abiding and patriotic, only for them to act a script which has been put down, and then some specific officers were given the assignment to carry this illegality out. And I'll specifically call on the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to ensure that justice is being meted. DCP Fakorede, who was the first person who had contact with Omoyele Sowore as regards the allegations, came with a brutal force. You know, within the first seconds when he entered the office where we were, he started the attack. And the attack was just too obvious that they were not ready for any level of just investigation or questioning, but a vendetta which they were trying to carry out. A vendetta, a script written most likely by the IG of police, and then his boys were assigned to carry out this dastardly act on Omoyele Sowore. And we are saying no to injustices. We are saying that would not stand. Even though Omoyele Sowore is released right now, we are calling for an adequate investigation to know why that was done and the illegalities that were carried out, and also the torture on the personality of Omoyele Sowore. Omoyele Sowore is a national asset and will not let that slide. His rights must be followed, he must be respected, and all the injustices meted on him will be asking for redress, and we'll be doing that in no time.
Mr. Philip, I have a couple of questions here. Actually, it's one question, but I need some confirmation on these matters. First of all, he was invited by the police, he visited, in quote, and then you say he was attacked. We would like to know exactly what the nature of this attack is. That's one. On the other hand, what are these allegations that he was that they've leveled against him? these forgery? What did he forge, or what did they say he forged? Cyber stalking, who was he stalking? And the case of criminal defamation, who was he defaming? Do you have any details about these? Mr. Philip,
you see, these are the
Go ahead, please.
questions we want to come answer Nigerians. The answers to these questions you're posing.
Oh, we seem to have lost Mr. Philip Soshok's there. Our apology.
What are these allegations? That's the question we're asking. I want every meaning Nigerian to ask the same question. They should be bold enough to come tell the world. You said defamation. Who was defamed? Who was defamed? Let them come forward and tell us in what kind of circumstances were those issues presented before us to say these are defamatory in nature. This is just a vendetta by the Inspector General of Police on the person of Omoyele Sowore. They should be able to come spell it out. You said he forged. What did he forge? What did he forge? Let's see it. Come openly and tell the public what he has forged. As far as we are concerned, Omoyele Sowore has done no wrong. Like I said earlier, he is a national asset and he should be protected by all institutions of the government, all institutions in this country, and also all well-meaning Nigerians. That was why you see immediately he was brutalized and arrested and tortured. The whole world rose up. Individuals cutting across different political divides, they rose up against the injustice. So they should come out and tell us, what are these allegations? You said he defamed. Who did he defame? Is it about the promotion that never followed due process? How can you stay 10 years in?
Ms. Aruche, we're going to try and get your connection right. We seem to be having some issues there, but we did get much of what you were saying there regarding these claims that were levied against him. And hopefully we will be able to get you back so you can also tell us the nature of this attack. But Judith, please, maybe we can move on to Precious.
Ms. Aruche, you were talking just earlier, Mr. Phillips was talking about how, you know, all institutions and agencies and watchdogs need to come to, you know, protect Mr. Sowore. And so I have to ask you, you know, I'm focusing, but this time our focus is on accountability and transparency. Do you think that the civil society's watchdogs of, you know, constitutional rights have done enough when it comes to this case, or is there much that's left to be addressed?
I think the civil societies are doing their best. Everybody is doing their best. Even political officers are doing their best. You know, we can only hope for more. But I'll throw light on what he was trying to say because his connection wasn't clear. The allegations levied against Omoyele Sowore, the IG should come outside. If he's not ashamed, if the Nigerian police force are not ashamed of themselves, they should come outside and tell Nigerians what these allegations are. Who exactly is he cyberstalking and why is he cyberstalking them? He should come outside and tell Nigerians, not in bogus terms, in plain terms, what the bone of contention is. They said forgery. What did he forge? You know, we need to start calling, I don't want to use vulgar words, but bullshit. You know, let them come and swear Ogun that he actually forged a document. What actually happened is that Sowore, as a journalist, got intel of a wireless message that was sent to police officers, mandating them or urging them not to come outside for the protest. You know, just recently he was involved in this police welfare protest and all that. And so the IG sent a message, allegedly, you know, to his officers, you know, threatening them not to come outside. He got a hold of that document and leaked it. Yes, he's a journalist. I think they are now prevailing on him to disclose his source, which as a renowned journalist, he shouldn't do and should never even be asked to do. Is that the forge? Because he added panic, his watermark to the document? Is that why they say he forged the document? Because when people hear it out there and say he forged the document, cyber did, cyber that, they look at it, he's not a patriotic citizen. He did something so big. No, he only released the document. And then when they say cyberstalking or so, he also alleged that the IG is promoting people based on intimacy. Let's just say these things the way they are. This is what has triggered the Inspector General of Police to use his office to victimize Omoyele Sowore. And it is It is arrant nonsense. It is flagrant abuse of power and deserves to stop. The president of the nation, Bola Tinubu, should come outside and say something about the abuse of power that happens in the police force, because it is not the first time. When they went there, when Sowore got to the FCID, he got there whole and sound. In fact, he held his detention back because he already foresaw that these people would want to victimize him. On getting there, the DCP Fakorede actually played the script as he anticipated, came up front to Sowore and confronted him as if there was going to have a fiscal. I heard that there was a fiscal fiasco between some security men on Mufti there and even lawyers, because it was so confrontational and not unexpected, but very, would I say, disheartening. So these allegations that is being written in bogus terms, let them break it down to Nigerians so they will understand, so Nigerians will understand what is actually going on. It is actually a show of shame. And I can only hope that the civil society and other well-meaning Nigerians will add their voices to call this illegal Inspector General of Police to order.
You've started using the term illegal police, Inspector General of Police, the same as Mr. Sowore does. But I have to ask you, right, Ms. Oruche, you are a human rights activist, and we have seen, you've just called out, the abuse of power as is, the alleged use of abuse of power, and also, but most importantly, the cyber act or cyberbullying act that have been used or skewed in persecution and accusations of, persons, voices of dissent. I want you to talk on that and, how these are being blurred, the lines are being blurred when it comes to persecution and the far-reaching arm when it comes to abuse of power.
It is simple. If you feel you have been defamed, if you feel you've been cyberbullied, you go to court. That is what the law says. It is not a criminal offense. You go to court. As a matter of fact, in the FCT, the magistrate, we are aware that the magistrate no longer issue detention order except the suspect is present. So where did they get the detention order? Which magistrate ordered the detention of Omoyele Sowore? What, even in Lagos, it is no longer done. What they now do is they go to states like Nasarawa to get detention order from this, would I call them Jankara magistrates. These things should stop. If you feel that someone has cyberbullied you, there's a provision of the law that protects you. You go to court and seek redress. Not use your office to intimidate the person, not use your office to try to silence the person. If you feel you have a counterclaim to what the person has said, you display it for everybody to say. If they say that there's a lady there that has spent just 10 years in the Nigerian Police Force and has been promoted all the way up to Assistant Commissioner of Police, and they feel that is not supposed to be, or that has some what word do I use it? That has some, it looks shady. You come and clear the air.
All right,
you are accountable to the people.
Thank you, Mr. Richard.
Not use your office to now detain him, brutalize him, and come to lie in the public that he wasn't brutalized.
All right, now,
this,
Mr.
like
Richard,
I will always say, is a show of shame.
Okay, thank you. We hear that Mr. Phillips Oshoks is back. Mr. Phillips, you're welcome back. Thank you very much. Hopefully we have you on a better connection now. Now, Mr. Phillips, let's talk about the authenticity of the injury. Now, Precious only just told us about the physical instance that might have happened between Omoyele Sowore and the security operatives. And you also told us that he was attacked just as he arrived at the headquarters there. But the police have come out to tell that he refused medical attention twice. He also told in that package we played earlier that they brought in a nurse and not a doctor, which he would rather prefer. Has there been any external medical examiner who has examined his injury and given a, well, whether it is indeed an injury or not? Has there been any such?
Well, Omoyele Sowore is still undergoing medical examinations as I'm speaking with you. However, let's also understand the fact that the script the police has put before Nigerians has fallen on a very wrong footing, because Nigerians no longer believe the Nigerian police force. You could see on the comment section where they try to make some defense you could see the responses they got. The backlash they got was not what they actually expected. Now, Omoyele Sowore walked into their facility carrying his bag. His bag, he was carried, using the same hand they fractured. So how come will they tell the world that he came into their facility with such an injury? That's on the one side. So, having injured him, having fractured his arm, they now brought in a nurse, which to us and to him was not even fit to check the nature of injury which he has sustained. And according to them, they brought doctors to check. How can you victimize somebody, you try to kill somebody, and then you also bring in your own medical doctors to come examine the nature of injury you have meted on him? Omoyele Sowore will only be illogical or very irresponsible to have accepted such kind of requests from their own medical doctors. Why didn't they allow him access to his own medical doctors to come into their facility to do the same? Because he requested such. So you don't expect them to be so good to you, having injured you, having victimized you, having brutalized you, locked you up, and then giving you their own doctors. So they will end up killing you or end up, doing worse damage as they have done already. So don't blame him for not accepting to allow their doctors examine him. That's the right thing to do. No sensible Nigerian would have allowed same doctors from same institution victimizing you, trying to kill you, trying to ensure that you are taken out of this
Mr. Phillips, just a second, Mr. Phillips.
Now have their doctors treat you.
A medical examiner would not necessarily give treatment. A medical examiner would actually just ascertain whether there's an injury or not. So once again, has there been any external, and I say external deliberately, not from the police and not from Sowore's camp, external examiner that might be employed here to ascertain his injuries?
The police never allowed external examiners to do that. They brought in their own medical personnel. But as I speak to you now, we have our medical practitioners who are, examining the nature of this injury. They're also seeing how well they can ensure that Omoyele Sowore doesn't undergo further, injuries to ensure that he comes back normal. So as I'm talking to you now, examination is ongoing, and the whole world will be made aware of this information when it's due. But all we are saying is we should not blame Omoyele Sowore for not allowing the medical doctors provided by the Nigerian Police Force to examine him. No sensible Nigerian would have allowed that happen.
Mr. Phillips, as we wrap up this discussion, Omoyele Sowore is one of the key leaders of the AAC, and saying that what he has faced in the public eye and in detention, allegedly in the detention of the Nigerian police. Would there be any legal redress on the part of the AAC? Are we going to be seeing legal matters being risen from this case in the coming days?
Yes, of course. In the coming days, I think the Nigerian Police Force would hear from us. Petitions are already, in the pipelines, because we would not allow this injustice to just be rolled, under the carpet, considering the fact that it is not just about Omoyele Sowore, but every Nigerian. To understand that the Nigerian Police Force is supposed to serve Nigerians and not be an instrument of brutality. We keep fighting against police brutality almost on a yearly basis. And the whole world is aware that this is the third time Omoyele Sowore will be abused, assaulted, beaten up, shot at, his nose broken, and this time around, his arm broken by the same police force. You invited this young man. So are you now telling Nigerians that when Nigerian Police Force asks you to come for a questioning or any form of invitation, you should not go? Because that might just be a trap of, you might end up being victimized, arrested, hospitalized, beaten, So they're setting a very bad precedent. And Nigerians will stop, honoring invitations once extended to them by the Nigerian Police Force. That's the implication of what they are doing. So in coming days, they'll be hearing from us as a party, as Omoyele Sowore, as an individual, his lawyers also. They'll be writing petitions to every quarters that does matter, that this injustice would not just be allowed to pass by. We would fight it to a standstill, because all Nigerians should be treated, based on the constitutional mandate that, protects every Nigerian.
Okay, Ms. Aruche, final question to you here. I'm wondering, transparency, accountability, what can civil societies and watchdogs, independent watchdogs, do now, apart from protests, because we saw the protests through the week. What can they do to ensure transparency and accountability in these kinds of cases, especially this one?
petitions, submit policies to the National Assembly, policies that strengthens institution, ensures accountability, ensures accountability and make sure that violators are being prosecuted. In a Senate climb, as we speak, those that brutalized Omoyele Sowore would have been in detention and charged to court for even alleged murder. So these are things I feel they can do to ensure safety in the country, to ensure safety in the country, yes. This is what I think they can do. And write petitions, seek redress in courts, submit policies to the National Assembly, policies that protect human rights. We've so much complained about police brutality. I've been a victim of police brutality. A lot of persons, this is not just about Omoyele Sowore, it's about every Nigerian out there. We have suffered police brutality far too long. This same DCP Fakorede was in SARS. Then, when we were protesting NSAS, we know all the rubbish he did. He doesn't have a good track record. It's still happening again in 2025. So I feel that the human rights organization, civil service organization should push policies, apply for redress in court so that these people know we are not just protesting, that we are serious about taking the safety of human lives as an important factor in the country.
Important indeed. Precious Oruche, I must say thank you. Human rights activist, and also to Mr. Oshok Phillips, one of the key voices for the AAC, just joining us, giving us a bit of insight on the Sowore case that unfolded over the week. Gentlemen, once again, thank you. You're watching Breakfast Extra here on News Central Television. Let's go on a short break. When we come back, we switch gears to the economy, and this time, a new insurance act has been signed. Stay with us.
Hey, welcome back. It's another big story here for Breakfast Extra, and President Bola Tinubu has signed the Nigerian Insurance Industry Reform Act 2025 into law, marking the most comprehensive overhaul of the nation's insurance framework in 2 decades. The new act repeals multiple outdated legislation, consolidating them into a single, robust regulatory framework aimed at protecting policyholders, boosting investor confidence, and also modernizing the insurance landscape. Key highlights include stricter licensing requirements, higher minimum capital threshold of 25 billion naira for non-life, 15 billion naira for life, and 45 billion naira for reinsurance, risk-based supervision, enhanced consumer protection, and also mandatory licensing for online insurance operators.
Now, the law is expected to deepen the penetration in a market where less than 2% of the population currently holds any form of insurance, while also tackling fraud, enforcing corporate governance, and promoting financial inclusion products. But will this reform accelerate growth and trust in Nigeria's insurance sector, or will it present new hurdles for smaller players and startups? Joining us to break it down is Professor Ken Ife. He's a development economist and public policy analyst. Sir, you are welcome to the program. And very good morning to you. Now,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. The new act is being called the most significant reform to Nigeria's insurance sector in decades. So, from your perspective, what are the biggest game-changing provisions that are in this law?
Well, first of all, the insurance industry has been underperforming, and the regulatory framework has been very weak. And the compliance has always been an issue. There's complete lack of trust in the industry. And even though finance and insurance account for just under 6% of our GDP, they nevertheless power our growth because they return about 30% growth. So that is very significant. But the fact of the matter is that we need to have what we have just got, and it has been long in coming. What difference will it make? Massive difference. People don't have any trust in this industry. Less than 2% of the population are actually insured, and that should go as high as possible. And if you look at many other countries like Europe and America and all of that, insurance is so critical in enabling growth in the economy and in enabling transactions and inspiring confidence in investors.
investors want to see not only the safety of their money, but all other activities that surround their investment. And only very few of them are actually implemented because only the car is mandatory insurance and then group life that are mandatory. But the rest areas of insurance are just not mandatory and people don't care. But now, if we faithfully implement this, it will begin to return confidence into the economy and then the investors will embrace this. And you will see massive growth in insurance.
Professor, in terms of a layman now who is hearing this information, if there is a playground type explanation that you can give, for the layman, for the common person, how does this help him? Now, you say that only about 2% of Nigerians are insured. What would it make insurance more expensive for the common man, or would it just make it more accessible? How does this help him?
Well, as ability to enter into the fray, then the economies of scale will kick in, and it is competition. In fact, what drives prices down is competition, and what helps competition is transparency, and then trust. All of these are lacking in the previous regime, but they are all likely to now kick in. The fact of the matter is this regulation is consumer-centric in its focus. So it looks at the consumer first and foremost. For example, why is the banking industry powering above their weight? It's because of the strong regulatory stance of a central bank. Their prudential guidelines, their risk-based supervision, which they do monthly with NDIC. Now, when people who are personally insured, when they have issues, for example, if the insurer goes bankrupt, there's no protection for them. Now there is. But if you're a deposit insurer in the banking sector, if anything happens to the bank, the NDIC kicks in and at least gives you 50%. Now you are beginning to have the equivalent of NDIC in the insurance sector. And there are many more things that are going on there. Is that asking for it to be digitalized? All aspects of the insurance value chain to be digitalized. When I drive my car in the UK, once the police car sees your car, immediately it tells you whether you've insured, whether you've done MOT. There's so many things that are so automatic. If you make phone call, you can get there. We don't even have KYC in that sense because everybody online is giving insurance. And then that's why people, in fact, if you look at our car industry, people only care for the mandatory, which is third party and theft. Yeah. They're not interested in the comprehensive because they know they're never going to get paid if their car have accidents. So they just take the minimum required by law and then they move along. You hit their car, they continue their journey because they know it's going to be a waste of time to go for insurance to pay them the damage. So, but all of these are going to change. They are actually going to change.
Now, so Professor, so
a second problem.
Go ahead, please.
Second problem is the capitalization, the capital structure. The capital requirement for the players is so small that I don't blame them. They run away from bills. Now they have a higher minimum capital requirement of 15 billion for non-life and 10 billion for life, and as well as 35 billion for reinsurance. So there is this coming up. That's the same thing as we're having in the banking sector, where they are now heading out to 500 billion naira minimum capital requirement. So
Professor,
they should all work together because they're all part of the same structure. So Professor, and they are the common denominator of our industry.
My apologies, Professor.
Sorry.
So I just didn't want you to go too far regarding these capital. Does it make it more? Does it make it easier for investors to come into the playing field?
It does. It does because you see what do investors consider? First of all, don't forget that there are investors that could come into the insurance industry. They are now going to be interested in coming into the insurance industry to invest in the insurance industry because they can see transparency, they can see accountability, they can see honesty play its part, and people can see quality of service, digitalization of services, everything that is required to make insurance and protecting the insurances themselves, so they can see all that, so they can confidently go and invest in insurance company. Then the second point is, how about the people taking insurance out on whatever that, do you know in America, 30% of people's income goes to health insurance. 30% of their income goes to health insurance. And I don't know how much it is here, if there is. Anyway, so you can see that on the side of the people who are coming with the business to insure their business, it is not just car and group life. There are thousands of things that can be insured. There's building insurance. There is even transactions. You have, even when our companies, when we tender for contract in UK, we are required to produce public liability insurance, which means that the public-facing area where people come to public building have to be insured, and the people coming in to use this service will have to be insured. If anything falls on them, they have to be insured. You have to have employer liability insurance. Those you employ are insured. If anything happens to them while they're working for you, then you have also professional indemnity insurance. If people give you advice, professional advice, lawyers, accountants, all of that, they are insured. You are insured, because if anything goes wrong with their advice, then you sue them. So there are thousands and thousands of things, shipping lines, transportation. You are transporting your goods from Lagos to anywhere, they are insured. If anything happens, then that means that many of these insurance companies will not insure the transit if the cars are not MOT'd. In other words, if they are not roadworthy, they will not agree to give insurance. So that forces the transportation industry to update their cars to make sure that their cars are roadworthy. So it has a ripple effect.
Right. Professor,
so it's very, very important protection.
Right. From your description, it seems like the insurance sector has been coasting for quite a while until this, enactment, or rather this signing of this act into law now for the insurance sector. And, this recapitalization, one would say, or capital requirements is now needed from the sector. But what about implementation? How will this, ensure consumer protection? Because, like you said, there's been a trust deficit between the customers, the consumers, and the insurance sector. How are you going to ensure that, that the consumers are met and, they win back the trust again? And in terms of compliance, will this enhance the sector?
Absolutely. Let me tell you the lacuna in our law. The thing is that our laws fail on implementation simply because we don't have penalty clauses against infringement. We don't have enforcement rights. We don't have mechanisms. And we don't even include, apart from fines, include imprisonment. Now, I can tell you that we've done that now on Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission Act of 2025. We've now done the same in Insurance Act reform. We have not done the same in Fiscal Responsibility Act 2007, which is what governs borrowing and public sector finance management. That is the one that is missing. Once you have them, it means that the NICON is empowered to take action, revoke licenses, sue, take action against or infringement of the person. Somebody look at the fines. Already we have fines for 25 million if you individual, or even 50 million for firms for violating. So they will enforce those because they have enforcement powers. It's not like in Fiscal Responsibility Act where you have to write report and you take it to the Attorney General and it will sit in one locker there for years. That's not the same. Now these two laws can actually bite. And when one or two people go to prison because of infringement, people will sit up. When companies pay those fines, you're no longer telling us corporate manslaughter. No, if you have corporate manslaughter, a principal officer is going to jail because that's what the law says. It has a provision for not only 50 months, but plus 2-year imprisonment. So it's not going to disappear. Oh, corporate manslaughter. No, it's serious. But now, when you have those law, enforcement becomes possible. And then that's what happens with central bank. Notice that central bank fines companies and makes hundreds of billions of naira from fining these banks. The same thing with Nigerian Communication Commission, where they fine the digital companies, then there is order, there is respect. Somebody breathes down their shoulder. And when you have online, when you complain, the complainant gets immediate response because NICOM will look at immediately they will look at the audit trail. They will look at the digitalization infrastructure of the insurance, and they can tell. Just like central bank can tell when you are complaining to them, they can actually go to the court, so they can actually see what the bank has actually done. Mm-hmm. So that is what its implementation becomes easier because you have regulations, and then you have laws, you have penalties, and you have enforcement.
All right. So, sir, with all of this enforcement, regulation and all, it helps investors come in. Competition brings prices down. But with the neglect or rot that the insurance industry has been left in for the while it has been left in, how long will it take before we begin to see change? And I mean actual change.
Well, it still comes back to the question that people want to see value in whatever they're spending their money. Right. But the law takes immediate effect.
Right. Let's talk about that minimum capital requirements, right, that you reeled out earlier. 25 billion naira for non-life. I think about 15 billion for life, 45 billion for reinsurance. And we're talking about capital. 15 million. We're talking about, competition. We're talking about entry. We're talking about sector. Will these numbers, this figure, not sort of make it harder for smaller insurance company to as entry into the market?
No, it's not the point. The point is this. Don't forget, Nigeria had 81 banks in 2005. Right. But when the central bank governor went to South Africa, 2 South African banks had more capitalization than 81 banks in Nigeria. So they went to the capitalization. So they moved from 2 billion to 25 billion. Yes, some of them went through the way, but they didn't. They were taking over the mergers and all of that. The important thing is to bring confidence, bring strength, bring regulation into the business so that people can embrace the industry. The industry will grow. And then others will find their way. But the thing is that you cannot say, oh, we want to protect 1,000 insurance. No, that's not the point. The point is, what do you do, the minimum requirement to get people to patronize this industry? How do we allow this industry to play a meaningful part in enabling growth in our economy? Right. People cannot invest in your economy because they don't see how they can be insured, their risk can be insured.
Okay.
Anything financial requires risk. If you have risk, you have to have insurance.
Professor Ken, I must say thank you for taking out the time to join us. It's been quite stellar. It's always great having you. Professor Ken Ife, he is a development economist and public policy analyst. Once again, sir, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Let's go on a short break. We continue the last hour of the program with news. Stay with us. And welcome to Breakfast Headlines here on News Central Television. I am Judith at TV. We begin with politics. A major endorsement is stirring fresh speculation within Nigeria's political landscape. Former governor of Jigawa State, Sule Lamido, has publicly backed former President Goodluck Jonathan as the People's Democratic Party's strongest contender for the 2027 presidential election. Lamido praised Jonathan as a seasoned statesman with a deep understanding of governance and a proven ability to work collaboratively across political lines. The endorsement comes as rumors continue to swirl about Jonathan's possible return to the PDP and a potential run for office. So far, the former president, who has kept a relatively low political profile since his 2015 electoral defeat, has yet to make any formal declaration regarding his 2027 ambitions. In the meantime, reactions have trailed the call by the 2023 presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, for a single term of 5 years for the office of the President of Nigeria. Obi had said this would make the occupier know that they have a job to do within the limited time available. He said this was a practice in South Korea, where the president cannot seek re-election after a single term of 5 years in office. However, First National Chairman of the All Progressives Congress, or All Progressives Grand Alliance, I beg your pardon, that's Abga Chakwas Okorie, said Obi's proposal is a sign of desperation. Away from politics, President Bola Tinubu has condoled with the people of Benue State over the death of Audu Ogbe, former chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. In a statement, presidential spokesman Bayo Nanuga said Tinubu recognized Ogbe's intellectual contributions to policy making and his ability to craft practical solutions to complex national challenges. Also mourning the former minister, ex-president Olusegun Obasanjo, speaking through his aide Kayode Akinyemi from Uganda, described Ogbe as peace-loving, unassuming, and committed to democracy. And now to education. The Academic Staff Union of Universities has warned the federal and state governments to address long-standing issues in public universities or risk another industrial crisis. ASU President Christopher Miwuna cited poor welfare, inadequate funding, and the government's failure to honor agreements, including the renegotiation of 2009 FGN ASU deal. He said lecturers work on empty stomachs and conduct research without essential resources while struggling with unpaid bills and other financial burdens. The union also criticized political interference in university leadership and condemned programs that treat academics as volunteers. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has inaugurated 2 special committees to investigate allegations of breached agreements by estate developers and residents, where land use terms were breached in contravention to government-approved plans. The minister, while inaugurating the committee, says that they have been given a 2-week deadline to submit their reports and prefer adequate recommendations. He tasked the committees to identify all infractions in the Maitama, Asukoro, and the Central Business District areas of Abuja and recommend penalties or revocation of their titles.
Sometimes government will give out letters of intent to those who say they want to develop mass housing. And government will always have an agreement, or what they call memorandum of understanding. We find that in most cases, these clauses or these agreements are being violated. And so this committee is to look into the issues that have to do with.
The court in Chad's capital has sentenced former Prime Minister and opposition leader Sussex Masra to 20 years in prison. Masra was convicted of hate speech, xenophobia, and inciting intercommunal violence that killed 42 people in May. The case stems from unrest in the southwest, where the politician, a fierce critic of President Muhammad Idris Deby Itno, allegedly fueled tensions between ethnic groups. Prosecutors had set a 25-year term, but Masra and his co-defendants denied the charges. That's pretty much all we can take for Breakfast Headlines. It's back to Breakfast Extra. Stay with us.
And you're welcome. It's still Breakfast Extra. We've got a very interesting conversation about to go on. Now, in today's Nollywood Spotlight, we're exploring a striking debate shaking Nigeria's film industry. Veteran media personality Ima Ogoli has ignited conversation by calling out Nollywood's growing trend of favoring actors with massive social media followings, sometimes at the expense of genuine talent. He highlighted the duo. Now, he highlighted the duo behind the popular series To Kill a Monkey, who together command.
Joining us to unpack this is the man himself, Ima Ogoli. He's a media personality, broadcaster, an unapologetic advocate for artistic integrity in Nollywood. Mr. Ogoli, it's always great to have you join us. Been a while. Is it the first this year?
No, it's not. He's been with us. He's been with us for. Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah. You're welcome. Good to have you on.
Great to have you join us. You have called this trend where the casting based on follower count as sickening, and unfair. Can you explain what's at stake when talent takes clout, or when a talent is taking over expertise? Stay with there.
Oh, yes, I am. So this for me, what's at stake is a lot, and talent is exactly what it is. Talent is the golden egg, it's the golden child in that industry. And what this does is that it stifles talent. So what you're saying is that the core ingredients, the nucleus of its existence, is being tampered with. You're not just stopping it from growing. And that, for me, being at stake is too much to be at stake. When we stifle talent here, we simply just mean that it's barely giving a chance to shine on the basis of its own merit by itself. And this whole thing about matrix and giving to do it. And here's how you understand that being at stake is a big problem. It's pretty much like a child that is not given the right nutrients, and kwashiorkor is just a natural expectation. With time, if you have a child that you're not feeding what's right, the child will not grow. The child will grow, but not grow to be a healthy child. Pretty much like saying we all get a chance to grow old, but we don't all get a chance to grow up. So the thing about richly developing, like expansion is not development. We will get to expand. We will get to have more actors come in. But the thing about being rich with the acting, like I said, expansion is not development. We're not developing in the skill. We're not letting the talent shine. We're not letting it get forefront exhibition. That is too much to have at stake because it just leaves the entire space epileptic. We would have a case where you will now have a whole lot of actors who are popular for not acting. So they are not popular for acting. They are very popular, but the idea of acting, you would not find behind their popularity. If we get to that point, we would be having a major, major problem, if you ask me.
Well, Ima, I think you have to also notice that when people put out these movies, they're putting it out for profit. And to ensure profit, you must get it out to as many people as you can. To do that these days, many people fall on social media. Social media means that you have to take a very critical look at the kind of people that you are embracing in your fold. Numbers. Whether you like it or not, streaming services do this. Even politics. I mean, take a look at America. How did Trump gain popularity? He was big on social media.
It was controversial on social media.
It was controversial on social media too, according to your statement, which you put out regarding the controversial nature of one or two of the performers there. So how do you also balance all of these, the need for profit, the need to also be Puritan at the art itself as well?
Okay, so please get me very right. I have no problems with the power of social media being effectively utilized by a business-minded person. ROI is part of what you have importantly attached to the movie-making business. It's not a charity business, I agree with you. And I am not saying that everybody who has great numbers behind them in social media is a poor actor. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it is unwise to give some kind of bias towards the guy who can act a lot, but also has the potential to, by the nature of his presence, his popularity, his social media influence, get you more eyeballs. That's good thinking. Where I have a problem is where it becomes priority, you know, like they say in mathematics, by substitution, by elimination. When the idea of talent would, whatever it is, would give way completely once priority is overemphasized on the numbers. I'll give you a good example. If you ask me to pick a top 10 best male actors in the older range of people above their 50s, I would say RMD is a fantastic actor. I would put him in the first 10 if we're going for a competition against the rest of the world. I would also probably put, definitely not probably put, the man called Norbert Young on that same list. Norbert Young is a fantastic actor. But let's look at what happens in Nigeria. When they get a chance to give these roles out, they would consider that if you go look right now, RMD has about 3.3 million people following him on Instagram, for example. That alone will become all the reason they need not to look at Norbert again. So every time the opportunity comes up, this is our own problem. Every time the opportunity comes up to give one of these two guys, because they are probably at the same age range, they probably act the same way, they have method acting, whatever skill you want from these two, they would give you at the same level. But Norbert would never get a chance to shine because he has, exactly as we speak, on the same Instagram, 3,000 followers, while RMD has 3.3. But in the US, that would not be a problem. Okay, if for example, that we're talking about here now, if he had people who started talking about going to his page when they saw differently, who didn't really care about how many people were following you on Instagram, so go get him. and suddenly we can see how much he shines.
Imagoli, I think you have just noted something that I was going to go on into in my next question to you. And trust me, I'm on the same page with you. But you've just noted the case of the character Efe here, where he had this amount of people from before, and then when he became, well, through the movie or the series famous, he got that number of people increased by multiples. What if that number is a measure of how good you are at your job, a measure of how good you are as an actor? What if we have to look at the art first before the numbers, what I'm saying? What if it is the performance that brings the number, like you've just stated in the case of this character, Efe?
Okay, so there are cases, once again, where people are drawn to good actors. The chances in Nigeria, as we speak, that you have people follow actors because they are fantastic actors is very slim. What it takes to be an influencer, this is where you would want to think about this deeply. What is the criteria that it takes to be a heavy influencer? That criteria is not the same criteria that it takes to be a great actor. So you can't tell the fish that, oh, you're an amazing swimmer, come climb this tree, because that's what you're doing. When you say you have the power, the essence, the courage, the controversy, whatever it is that makes the people on the social media get gravitated towards you, it's not exactly what you would need to express as an actor to get attention.
I must say,
yes, there are people who are actors and get attention because they are actors. But in our country, it's very rare to find people who have a following because they are fantastic actors. Most of our actors are not very popular people. Most of the actors that we have who are super seasoned, I'm saying even the likes of Bola Tinubu is extremely underrated.
Oh, yes.
Extremely. But Bimbo has no time to be, dragging anybody on social media, responding, or most of them don't even want to make general social commentaries. So there are people, like I said, who want to act without wanting to be popular.
Thank you. I'm glad you're saying this because I'm of that opinion as well, right? And Ugoli, I think we can talk about what this says about the shifting requirements, when it comes to hiring, not just with Nollywood as well, but also, across the creative economy entirely, the creative sector. And it begs to ask the question about where we draw the line, Get ready with me videos, don't bring it close to me. You know what I mean? Like a day in the life, why am I doing it? At this point, you're asking people to give up their privacy, There's just so much you're having to feed this.
I never saw it
just
that way,
so you can have numbers, and just so you can be hired. And so let's talk about this shifting perception and what it means for persons who don't want to be social media famous, who just wants to do their job, do a great job, and go back home.
Exactly. There are loads of them. But now what you're doing is that you're putting pressure on them to, the criteria now for wanting to be an actor that is reckoned with will now not to be improving your craft. It won't be sitting and taking lessons. It won't be going for courses. It wouldn't be trying to get into the New York film school or whatever. It will now be the power for you to be more controversial. So these now two people, the guys who are already acting and want more attention, will now start thinking about PR a little too much. I don't know if you saw the young lady, not amazing, I can't remember her name now, but she played the sub in Genevieve's Lion movie. I can't remember now her name.
Lionheart.
She was saying, she was saying, I think it's Osude, that's her last name. And she was crying on Instagram about why does a producer, director want her to start dancing on TikTok because of a movie? She's not a dancer. She's not supposed to be dancing. And it became a problem. So much that it bothered the girl to turn her ring lights on, put her microphone on, and talk about it publicly. So the criteria is now wrong. So like you said, I'm happy you mentioned the fact that it cuts across board in the industry. Let me tell you how bad it is. It cuts across board in the entire Nigeria. It is still the same idea of get it by merit or not.
Yeah.
Contracts, the same thing. Jobs, the same thing. Admission into the university, the same thing. So it is a big problem. It's either you're going to give it to me because I deserve it, or because you have a faulty, funny reason for choosing me.
Right. And how does this seep?
Where they talk about.
Right. And how does this seep into the international stage as well, international, on the international platform or stage as well? Because there are hires that happen where foreign movies will come into the country and want to hire. And when you see the hires that they make, it's something ain't right there, because you can tell that other talents that could do a better job, And so what does that mean about, PR, about front-facing, image? So as an up-and-coming, actor that's coming into the field who is hoping for their big break, does it mean that I have to now have the followership before I now come in to hopefully get a role that might just be my big break, or be in a movie that is as huge, and nicely produced as the movie that is now taking center stage?
Sadly, that's what it means. Sadly, that's what it means. Both the actor is already acting and wants more attention, and then the feeder team, you know what I mean, the guys who are prepping to become actors. The concentration now is on what it will take to get more buzz on the platforms, social media platforms. And like I said in the beginning, what this does is that see where we've already, in all of this talk, talent is way at the background. In all of this talk, how good you truly are is way at the background. And To Kill a Monkey is an example of showing you how many great actors you haven't seen.
Oh, yes.
Interesting. Very interesting.
It tells you how many people are out there. You know how many practically every university in Nigeria has got a theater arts department.
Oh, yes.
And there are people graduating with honors on a daily from those departments. Where are they? When we've been seeing the same faces every day for 10, 15, 20 years.
Very true, man.
This problem is, this problem is so rooted, sorry, you were saying?
Very true, these points that you're noting here, but then one has to ask where the buck stops when it comes to responsibility. We had Shego Arinze on yesterday, and we talked to him. Well, he was the former president of the Actors Guild of Nigeria. We talked to him sparingly about this same topic here. But I'm asking now exactly whose doorstep does this fall on to take care of the matters here? Is it the Actors Guild that should maintain the Puritan nature of Nigerian art when it comes to movies? Or should it be the producers or directors that should be responsible enough to note that we must find these real, true actors instead of look for clout? Where does it stop?
Yeah, so I think it still boils down to the idea of a structure that determines what it should be. I'll give you a little example. So I came to the US and I started driving at 16, and here I am in my mid-40s at that time, and it took me 4 tests to pass to get a chance to hold the steering again. I dare not get on the road without that clearance. There was a structured system that guaranteed that I had qualified. The same thing with my health. I didn't touch insurance until I had qualified. It doesn't matter what part of the country you turn into, there is a laid down system you must go through to qualify, to get a bank account, to do anything. So even if you're coming into Hollywood, it's pretty much the same thing. There's a casting system. Casting is not a joke. It's one heck of a sub-industry in the industry of acting, So we do not have, whether it's with the Actors Guild, whether if we had a structure, it wouldn't have been in the hands of people to choose. If you're going to play soccer in Nigeria at the moment, you have to go for castings. There are going to be people who would, especially if you have a foreign coach who insists on doing it the way it should be done internationally. You would sit down and in batches, various coaches will watch you and they will begin to isolate. They don't care who your father is at that time. They don't care about how good looking you are at that time. What are you doing with the ball? Trained coaches are watching. And at the end of the day, they have distilled the best from the best. So we can excel. We can excel with playing soccer. But in this case, it's taking phone calls. People telling you, put out for this your next film. That's what it takes sometimes. And then, like we're saying with social media, someone is just watching. Every time he flips his blog, he sees this actor again. Every time he flips his blog, this actor has pulled another 300,000 comments around this story about him. And at that point, the last thing he's realizing that this is probably about a Benz or a fight last night or how much was spent in the club. Not about the person's prowess as an actor.
Right.
Well put.
So the emphasis is on the wrong things.
I mean,
you know.
and I hate to bring up the greats, you know, I hate to bring them up here. And when I mean by the greats, I mean the icons and the ones who really solidified what we know as Nollywood or even Hollywood, whether it's, you know, Tom Cruise. You don't see him come out except there is a movie he needs to promote or there's a program he's supporting. You don't see a Beyonce come out except there's a new era and a new album or a new project they're on. You don't see a Genevieve come out anyhow. You don't see you don't see a Genevieve outside.
Get ready with me.
And so what I'm trying to say here is that how then can we separate the job from, how do we then separate that job and the performative act that is social media? Is there ever going to be a time where there can be that split? Because Instagram is performative, and I feel like I missed my own time. Not my time, but my generation.
Let me support you
no,
there.
hang on. My generation, in saying that, I think like I'm in the wrong generation. I wish there was maybe 2 decades before where the work is what speaks for themselves, and there's no so much as, you know, setting up a camera, having a social media, person or team. Every time I see Tony Elumelu on social media, I'm like, he must be tired. Because you have to go on all these high-profile meetings, but at the same time, there's all this camera in your face. You're doing, and it looks like he loves it, but it must be exhausting. And so how do you separate that performative? You know, is there ever going to be a time, would the actors ever come to that sense of, this is the work, this is performative, this person is in the limelight, they may not be able to deliver what I need for my film?
Yeah, so it's a tradition that's happening now that is not. I don't like, with all due respect, what is taking, for example, for a Tony Elumelu that you mentioned, to constantly push his image out there as an individual. I mean, from the guy who owns Elon Musk, everybody's doing about the same thing, you know, projecting their personalities as the face of their business. I have my problems with that, including the fact that meetings, all sorts of collective work to make this happen for your company. But your face, your personality as an individual now becoming the face of that company, all you simply need to make is one mistake on that social scene, it could affect everything you're doing. One tiny little mistake. So I have my own personal problems with that. But as it comes, without digressing too much, as it comes back to our situation here with the Nollywood situation, I think that one thing, like you did mention, the old takers, if I may use that term. Now this problem actually didn't start with social media. Social media simply just amplified it heavily. Let me tell you how far back this problem goes. It goes as far back as the days of, I don't know if you remember words like Pound Road, Aba, Upper Iweka, Mortar. Now, you would also remember that we had the same faces being recycled at that time. The Igbo man who was in charge at that time, Trader, simply just realized that, this Ramsey face, the last movie, the guy is Cello. The second movie, the guy is Cello. That's it, Ramsey's in trouble. Every script will come to him. And then, so this thing about if it's not broke, don't fix it, we take it a little too far. Once something is found to work as a slight formula that is functional, everybody stays there. So that applies here too. Without social media, they had tested out a Ramsey and realized that, I mean, there must be something about him. Why is he selling so much? This face they sell. This face they sell. Then, at a point, if you notice, there was a heavy attempt to replicate Ramses. So the Nonso Jobis came in, the Mike Zumoniers, there's a long list of yellow boys looking the same.
Interesting.
Do you see what I mean? And because they thought now this was it. In all of this, Ike Obona, in all of this, it wasn't about how good they were. Some of them came in, Ike will tell you he came in sucking.
But you have to admit that, you have to admit that even then, And even now, it creates opportunities.
Yeah.
Then it created opportunities for the younger names you mentioned from coming off of Ramsey Noah, the replications that you mentioned.
But they were fortunate.
But here now, I also want to point out that, don't you think it also provides jobs? I'll give you an example. I have a friend who runs an event business. And for him, he is always asked, or she's always asked about her social media account. Now, people use this to judge how good she is. You know, perhaps maybe they're looking at your products or your events or your numbers, perhaps. So isn't this just another way of saying, can I see your CV? Now, what she's done is now she has gone on to, Judith is shaking her head. No. She's gone on now to employ a social media manager like Tony Elumelu, who has somebody who's definitely, you know, there for just that one thing. Don't you think this provides jobs? Don't you think this provides opportunities for people to see, okay, I want to replicate and be like this person? It's opening up the industry in ways that it would not be. It's accelerating the growth, don't you think?
That, again, nothing is wrong with. My problem continually would remain clearly the degree of dependency. To what extent? You understand? The degree of dependency, to what extent does it really matter? When it comes down to it and we have to choose, are you going to say that, I'll give you a perfect example. Nancy Isime is, I mean, the way she has developed herself over time is incredible. She's become an awesome actor, right? Now, Nancy's would play a role that would also very easily be carried by an insert, right? Very easily be carried as by an insert.
Yes.
Now, I want to ask you, do you think that Nancy, if you in the situation that we have now, let me just make it clear, let me tell you clearly, what will happen based on what's going on now is that Nse, who has about 1 million, Nse has about 1.1 million people following her on Instagram. Nancy has 6 million people following her on Instagram. Now, I can tell you very clearly that Nse will see more scripts than, Nancy will see more scripts than Nse will. When, in my opinion, Nse is a better actor. It's not to take anything off the fact that Nancy is phenomenal right now. So if you will constantly choose Nancy, like I was giving an example of RMD and Norbert Young, all of them great people. I'm not, please let it be clear that I'm not saying anybody is weak or because they have more numbers. No, I'm just saying that we have a society where the person who has more numbers, you're likely going to see that person over and over and over and over and over and over again. While the other person who's also there in the business, ready to work, is just suffering for one thing. She's not as out there socially as the other person. That's all. And that's why I say it's unfair.
So in the long run, where do you see this taking the Nollywood industry? Is it going to make it any better, or is it going to slow it down, or is it going to kill it?
I don't think it's going to make it any better. Like I said, we're going to have a situation where we would have quality. Quality is my problem, because with time, people with the numbers, they tend to, a good number of them, not all of them, tend to be really more conscious about what's, you know, the social trends and all of that makes them, you find a lot of them on that, you know, notes. And if we keep letting a lot of them come in because of their value socially, because of how easily people talk about them, not exactly because of how great they are as actors, with time, we would have, like I said, a lot of actors who are popular for not acting, who are not popular for acting. And when that happens to us, we're going to lose a lot. Let me give you an example. We will get to a place where we would not have the reputation. Are we, like, Afrobeats, clearly to the world now, is a farm for the international market. So it doesn't matter whether it's Sony, everybody's coming to pick somebody up. You can notice how our stars are becoming international stars by the second. It's not by the quality of the jobs they're putting in. No, it's by the fact that they now have major international labels, flexing muscles, PR, everything behind all of them. So they are becoming major stars. Everybody's coming to pick them. Can we say the same thing about Nollywood?
Emmanuel, I think
Have we established ourselves as a farm where the world thinks about the next best thing to feed the international stage and think about Nigerian actors? Omasai, I don't know if you remember Omasai from Lupin. The guy is French.
Yeah, the French guy.
Yeah, he's blown up as an international actor. There's another lady from India, Deepik or so is her name.
Yeah.
From India. So these farms are being used every day. They're becoming feeder teams to the international stage. Why has it been so hard
for Nigeria,
Hollywood to be positioned as a place for quality actors to feed the world stage?
Is Nollywood a microcosm of Nigeria, given that Nigeria itself doesn't merit meritocracy or doesn't award meritocracy? And when you look at our private sector, our public sector, the way we hire, sometimes it's metrics, sometimes it's nepotism, sometimes it's favoritism.
It's as bad as, remember, the quota system, right?
Yeah.
So I'm right here. The guy who's been sitting with me in class the last 6 years, he's simply going to get that spot in the university, clearly because he comes from a certain state that I don't come from.
Right.
And how does a child feel at that level?
Right.
So that's how deeply rooted it is.
Exactly.
How deeply rooted it is. How long you have stood in the queue trying to buy fuel has nothing to do with the guy who just drove in with the
his Range Rover.
That knows the owner of the car. Yeah, exactly. So it's like you said, very clear micro sample of the larger picture in the industry. In fact, there was a guy, the guy Spyro on my page. If you go back and look, you will find a comment that he left. And he said it hurts him to realize that what I speak about here is not just for the movie industry. He says the same thing is happening in the music industry. I don't know to what extent he means that, but the truth is, if you go and you talk to models, if you go and you talk to people who are trying to get advertisement for their shows on TV, great shows, it doesn't matter what the quality of your show is.
Ugoli, you're going to make me cry, okay? You're going to just stop. You're going to make me cry. You need to stop right now. I mean, but like one of the old takers will say, you know, like one of the old takers will say, if you ask me, now who I go ask? On that note, we wrap up this segment. I must say thank you, Mr. Ima Ogoli. It's always a pleasure. Sublime discussions, pertinent points always made every single time you come on. We appreciate you for coming on. And also your dedication to staying true to what really is the arts and just being a proper, critic, an arts critic when it comes to Nigeria's creative sector. Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thank you. You guys have a good day.
Thank you.
All right.
Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we return, Mazir is going to be on the other side, and he will bring you the news strips for today. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
Welcome, final segment for our Sunday edition here for Breakfast Extra. News strips coming your way now. Now, Judith is also going to be joining me, as usual, as always. Thank you very much, Judith. We've got very interesting ones and very short time, so I'm going to jump right into it. Okay. I don't know if I'm allowed to have favorites, but I'm going to be telling what my favorite papers are for when it comes to
strips. The theme seems to be favorites the entire hour.
Yeah. Business Day is always a very good favorite of mine because they capture life in such beautiful art forms. This is one I'm talking about here. You both should be on duty. Where are you guys going with the balls? You can see. Now, these are police officers heading to the field. Let's put it like that. Oga, it is better to get some presidential gratitude than to wait for police gravity. What's that? Gravity? Yes. Now, from the week before, we remember that we had the police protest. In quotes, they don't want to call it a protest, but that was what it was. They were talking about their pensions and also some other things that they weren't getting, especially after leaving service, and how ill they were treated. We had people who came up on social media to tell, after 20 years, I'm getting 1.5 million naira or 3 million naira. They felt that after serving the nation, so why am I getting years and years and years? But Judith, the Falcons won, and while we are celebrating with them, while we are happy they put Nigeria on the map for female sports, they raked in so much for 90 minutes. And that's the disparity.
90 minutes?
Wait, no. In multiples, you get me, Sha? But compared to a policeman who's been on the streets under the sun, tattered uniform, that black uniform now has to turn gray, and then to get 1.5 million at the end of it, don't you think it's about time they all start considering police FC? I don't know. What do you think?
But they do have one, don't they?
They do, actually. They do. But the consideration now is that nobody believes that you giving your all to Nigeria as a police officer or as any other thing in the federal or in a federal parastatal is of any reward. Maybe sports is. There were a couple of instances where people came out to call. There was a soldier actually on the internet who came out to call out the Nigerian government regarding the prize money given to these sports icons, and nothing coming to soldiers or the police. Your take?
So I will say this: the young ladies, they have done us proud. They flew the flag high. They beat all the odds, and they were able to do that for a 10th time. That is world champions. Those are continental champions, and so it is well deserving. Let us separate rewarding hard work, because they had the opportunities to, renounce their citizenship, go to other countries and play for them, but they chose to stay with the country. They chose to stay with the country and play for the country. And there are other women who have played, 3-4 years or 3-4 tournaments and have won consecutively for the country. So that's one. Let's separate that. The security matter has its own.
Judith, I was coming to the security matter. These guys are out on the front lines for you, Judith.
No.
They are there fighting insurgency. These guys are on relay expressways every single Sunday. In fact, when you're going back home, these guys are still there in the sun.
If we're going to bring security, then bring nurses, bring doctors as well.
And that's the greater argument.
So that's what I'm saying is, the women have done their part. And they have done it exceedingly well. Mission X was accomplished. 10. Let them be rewarded. The issue with the police and security is fundamental, foundational. Let us not be distracted. Leave them alone with their money. The problem, this past administration, the administration before, 1960s, 1970s, even during the colonial era, the police has been rotting. We haven't fixed it. Why is it because of the other? People should leave my ladies and their dollars alone.
Judith, I get your passion, but we have to move on. But you are talking sense there, and you are correct. I agree with you. Points to note, however, most of the Falcons actually had most of their training outside of Nigeria. Nigeria did not contribute to that victory in some ways. And you can ask Koiki, our sports correspondent, about that, and he'll tell you plenty. Let's move on. Oh, here we are. Now, Grant. We acknowledge your suffering, but the media is clearly exaggerating. That's your, you-know-who. News media Nigeria is collapsing under Tinubu's watch. No, you're not collapsing. It's the news. They're just getting it wrong. You and I, by the way, Judith, they're talking about poverty, hunger, and everything. The common Nigerian. I don't think we need to define this too much. It just speaks.
It's so self-explanatory. I love it.
There's no point. Let's move on to another one before the end of the show. Good. Nigeria has been gathering loans and loans and loans. The presidency will argue that these loans are going into infrastructure. These loans are going into new policies that are being made, investors and all of that and everything. But how are we feeling all of that when it comes to the common man, the people who are under the bottom line? Where are the loans going? Because this is very vague on this side. Let me step aside. This is very vague where the loans are going. Where you can see them keep coming in, and the big smiles on our faces.
It's very interesting how the colors of the sleeves are the same as the gentleman who's holding the big...
Oh, which one? That one or that one?
No, the hands you stepped away for. Notice how the color of your shirt sleeve
okay, there.
is the same as the two gentlemen in the picture.
Okay. Didn't note that. Yeah, I see it now.
I'm not wearing my glasses.
I see now. That's a very, very detailed observation you give it there. So maybe you might need to explain that on later. But there is one I want us to get to. I'm hoping that that's coming up next. Let's take a look at this one. If it is the one from above. Thank you. Do you remember when it was transformation? Do you remember how life was for every Nigerian? I think that was Jonathan. And then came change. Change became next level, if you remember.
Yeah.
And they were like, hang on, this is not what we signed up for. And now it's renewed hope. Our crying blood. Mr. Sowore here does a fantastic job when it comes to describing the Nigerian instance.
That's the average Nigerian. Look at how he's just chilling in transformation.
I don't know if we want, let's just go back to transformation. But then again,
just chilling.
Only recently, if you remember, we talked about this, Now, Jonathan's being mentioned as the best candidate for the PDP when it comes to 2027. He's just chilling. He's always like, I'm not...
Look.
You know, but what do you think about Jonathan as an opposition?
He won't make it.
Tell me more.
And let me say why, because I know that some PDP people now will go on the comment section. Hang on, let me explain myself. Remember that when his wife received an award for a recent doctorate program that she did, she specifically said that her husband was not running for presidency. That's from like a great source. Says he wasn't going to run. Secondly, when he won this administration went into power, he said, and he threw support behind the president. And we've seen him time and time again in public spaces where he's shaking hands with the president and he seems to be in cahoots or friendship with the president. Whether it's diplomacy, whether it's, public-facing friendship, what we know is he seems to be, being in front. And he's never, ever been vocal about this. So I think that this is the PDP not knowing any strong personality that can take their presidential candidates, because remember, Atiku has left, Wike is fighting with them. Who else? All of their strong bases have left, And so who is in PDP that can take up the mantle, take up the ticket for 2027?
Let me put it like this.
So hence...
No, Judith, this is it. Who is remaining?
Yeah.
I guess that is...
If I say A, you say P, another one say C.
Judith, in any case, we're being rushed off the air, Judith, because we have run out of time for today's show. But it's been a stellar one. Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
We're
ending up with the strips. I think this is the best way to actually end it. Hopefully, we can get that transformation going again.
Jesus' name. Amen.
But I don't know. Would you vote back transformation? I think that's the question. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
I did not endorse anybody.
No, you didn't.
I didn't.
But thank you very much for a very interesting show. Thank you for being with us since 8 a.m. yesterday morning. We'll be back again for another edition come Saturday next week. But Judith, do tell them what they should look out for.
Absolutely. So you want to tune in tomorrow, bright and early, 7 a.m. in the morning. The trio, and that's Benga, Olive, and Joe, is going to be live with you from Monday all the way to Friday, 7 to 10 a.m. in the morning. You're going to catch their faces all through the weeks, man.
Oh, yeah. And until then, from us, it's bye-bye now.
Bye.